Everyone you have ever called a friend, a family member, a partner, a colleague. Everyone who has shown up for you, supported you, celebrated you, stayed close to you, has been doing it for a reason. Not the reason you think. Not because of who you are, because of what you provide. And the moment what you provide disappears, the money, the connections, the availability, the usefulness, you will discover exactly how many of those people were there for you and how many were there for what you provided. The calls become less frequent, the concern becomes less genuine, the relationship reveals itself for what it always was beneath the language it used to describe itself, a transaction. Not because they are evil, not because they are calculating, because this is how human beings are actually wired, and almost no one has ever been honest enough with you to say it directly. Until now, most men never make this discovery consciously. They make it through the specific pain of a friendship that evaporated when the success did, a family dynamic that shifted when the financial support stopped, a relationship that cooled the moment the emotional giving became less automatic. They feel the loss without naming the mechanism. Today we name it. Niccolo Machiavelli was a man who studied the courts of Renaissance Florence for his entire career, rooms full of alliances that looked like friendships, loyalty that looked like love, and concern that looked like genuine human connection. He watched all of it with the patience and precision of a surgeon, and he documented what he found with an accuracy so uncomfortable that the most powerful men of his era declared his work immoral. Then they read every page privately, because Niccolo Machiavelli did not write about human nature the way people wished it operated. He studied human behavior not as it was taught in churches or celebrated in courts, but as it actually operated in the rooms where real decisions were made. What he documented about why people attach, why they remain, and why they leave was so precisely accurate about the transactional engine underneath every human relationship that the Catholic Church placed his work on the Index of Forbidden Books for over 2 centuries. They did not ban it because it was immoral. They banned it because it was a mirror. And mirrors that accurate are dangerous to institutions built on the illusion that people act from love rather than interest. He wrote one line that contains the entire psychology of what this video is about to dismantle. Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. He was not writing about deception specifically. He was writing about need, the way human beings organize themselves around what they require from each other, and the way that organization is almost never what it appears to be on the surface of any relationship. Today, I am going to show you the full architecture of this, not to make you bitter, not to make you paranoid, to make you impossible to use without your knowledge again. Because the man who understands what people actually respond to, not what they say they respond to, not what they believe they respond to, but what actually governs their behavior toward him, that man is never again caught off guard by the love that disappears when the utility does. Let us start with the thing most people spend their entire lives refusing to examine. The reason the discovery hurts so much when it arrives, the reason the friendship that disappears when the success does feels like a betrayal rather than a revelation, is that you were operating under a framework that was never accurate. You believed the relationship was about you. It was never about you. It was about the version of you that produced something the other person needed. The success they could bask in proximity to, the stability they could borrow against, the availability they could draw on, the emotional labor they could consume, the resources they could access through you. That version of you, the useful version, was the relationship. And when that version became less accessible, less productive, less convenient, the relationship did not end. It simply revealed what it had always been, a function, and you were the one performing it. Here is the first uncomfortable truth, and I need you to sit with it before you dismiss it. The people who love you, the ones you are most certain love you genuinely, unconditionally, regardless of what you provide, also love you functionally, not exclusively functionally, not coldly, not without genuine warmth or authentic connection, but functionally. Your partner loves who you are and what it feels like to be with you and what that arrangement provides them. Emotional security, physical presence, financial stability, social identity, the specific comfort of having someone who knows them. Your parents love you, and they love the identity that comes with being your parent. The pride, the purpose, the validation of having raised someone worth caring about. Your friends love spending time with you, and they love what that time provides: laughter, belonging, status by association, the emotional regulation that comes from having someone who listens. This is not a cynical observation, it is the accurate one. And the difference between the cynical framing and the accurate one is this: understanding that love is functional does not make it less real, it makes it more navigable. Because the man who understands that relationships are maintained by value, that the warmth in his life is connected to what he provides, that warmth in exchange for, is the man who can never be blindsided when the warmth recedes. He expected it, because he understood the mechanism. Machiavelli documented this mechanism in the courts of Florence with a precision that has not been improved upon in 500 years. He wrote, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear." Most people read this as a statement about leadership. It is a statement about every relationship. Love, in Machiavelli's framework, is not the romantic unconditional construct that modern culture has sold you. Love, in his framework, is attachment, the specific drawing of one person toward another because of what the proximity of that person provides. And when the provision changes, the attachment recalibrates. He was not describing exceptional people or broken relationships. He was describing the baseline architecture of human connection. The love that remains when the provision disappears is rarer than your relationships suggest. Most men overestimate how much of their relational warmth would survive if they stopped performing the function that generates it. Let us make this concrete so you cannot philosophize your way around it. Think about the friend who was always around during a specific chapter of your life: a job, a city, a social circle. When the chapter ended, the friendship did not survive the chapter. Not because anything went wrong, because the friendship was native to the conditions that sustained it, and when the conditions changed, the friendship followed the conditions rather than following you. You called it drifting apart. It was not drifting, it was conclusion. The function that sustained the proximity had ended. The proximity ended with it, naturally, without malice, without anyone making a decision. The relationship was always a product of conditions. You thought it was a product of genuine connection. The conditions changed. The relationship told you which one it was. Or think about the family member who was warm and present and available when you were struggling, when you needed help, when you were in a position that made your dependence on them meaningful, when their help made them feel important and useful and needed. And then you succeeded. You became self-sufficient. You no longer needed the help. And the warmth shifted. Not to hostility, just to something cooler, something less available, something that required more effort to access than it did when you were the one who needed something. You thought the shift was about them changing. It was about you changing, specifically about what you provided changing. When you needed them, your need was a form of provision. It provided them with purpose, relevance, the identity of the person who helps. When you stopped needing them, you removed that provision. The warmth that the provision generated receded with it. This is called instrumental relationship theory in social psychology, the framework that describes how individuals form, maintain, and dissolve relationships based on the instrumental value each party provides to the other. Not as a cynical calculation, but as an unconscious biological mechanism that predates language, predates culture, predates every social norm ever constructed around the concept of genuine friendship. In ancestral environments, relationships were survival mechanisms. You maintained proximity to people who increased your survival probability and dissolved proximity with people who decreased it or provided no advantage. This was not a choice, it was the operating system. 5,000 years of civilization have not deleted the operating system. They have simply installed a graphical interface over it, one that uses words like love and loyalty and genuine care, while the original code continues running underneath. Every relationship you have ever had has been governed by this code. The ones that lasted were the ones where the instrumental exchange was mutual, consistent, and sufficiently valuable to both parties that the relationship remained the most efficient way to access what both people needed. The ones that ended were the ones where the exchange became imbalanced, where one party was providing more than they were receiving, or where the provision of one party became less necessary to the other. You called the imbalanced ones painful. You called the concluded ones mysterious. They were neither. They were simply the operating system running its standard program. Now let us talk about the specific pattern that destroys the most men in this niche, and they never see it coming because it arrives disguised as something virtuous. The overgiver. The man who provides so much, so consistently, so automatically that the people around him stop registering the provision and begin registering it as baseline, not extraordinary. Baseline. And baseline has no value. You do not appreciate oxygen until it is removed. You do not notice the floor until it disappears. You do not recognize the value of what has always been there until the moment it is gone. The man who overgives trains the people around him to expect without appreciating, to consume without accounting, to receive without registering the cost to the provider. And then, one day, the man stops. Not completely, just slightly. He is tired. He is building something. He is occupied with his own life. For the first time in a while, he reduces his provision by 20%. And the people around him react as if he has removed everything. Not because he has removed everything, because everything was the baseline, and baselines do not generate gratitude when present, only resentment when absent. This is called hedonic adaptation in relational contexts, the process by which consistent provision becomes invisible to the recipient